prepped and we're gonna just talk through a little story time on how I guess on accident became a content creator, influencer. I really do feel like I was destined for this job. And I'll tell you why, because I have been recording my life and documenting my life, photographing my life, videoing it, whatever it might be, since I was born. Literally since a camera was something that I knew existed, I've been doing it. And I wish, thankfully I didn't post too much of it on the internet because it wasn't an option when I was younger, but I wish that I kind of kept more of that so I could share it with you guys. I know my mom has stuff stored in the depths of her desktop and I eventually will have to do that so I could share more of it, but this has really been something that now knowing that this is my job is kind of funny that I never landed on the fact that like maybe I should lean into that further. It just didn't seem like something that was really an option when I guess I was in high school and college. Obviously I kind of feel like I grew up with the influencer world and industry, and it's still a very new industry. So that being said, it feels necessary to kind of bring you to the beginning of my career journey because it plays a role in how I got here. While I was in college, I guess I've always kind of struggled with like, what do I want to do with my life? I found that to be the most daunting and annoying question because unless you're dead set on something like being a doctor or a lawyer, like how does anyone at 17 like really know what they want to do with their life? And like it begs the question too, like as humans, are we supposed to not like evolve and change? Like how do you choose the thing that you're supposed to do forever? I always kind of said, you know, if I were to have to choose, I would love to do something creative, maybe fashion. And that was kind of what I always said I wanted to do. But so many people, and I'm very easily influenced, so many people always kind of poo-pooed on that idea. Like, you're not gonna make any money. It's very hard to find jobs in that career field. You know, oh, do that as something fun on the side, but don't pursue that as your job. I definitely listened to a lot of people who said that. And part of me is glad, part of me is sort of sad that I went through some of the things that I did. However, I decided after much thought that I would maybe pursue sales. And I really struggled after I graduated college. So to fast forward to college, I got a degree in business management and communications with a PR concentration. And again, I still had no idea what I was gonna do with that. I just wanted to keep it more in line with something that was general so that I wasn't pigeonholed by getting like some sort of fashion focused or arts degree and then not exactly doing that for the rest of my career. Now, I will say my dad is an entrepreneur. He is literally born and destined to be an entrepreneur, and I definitely have his spirit and feel like business made a lot of sense for me because I knew above everything else, the one thing I did feel confident on was that I wanted to be my own boss. I am extremely type A. I'm also extremely independent and I struggle in traditional work environments. I will be very honest that I don't work well in a team environment, and I was just worried for the workforce. Like, how am I gonna find a job that really is good for me? I ended up graduating college early. I knew one thing for certain, that I wanted to move to Los Angeles. I grew up in California for a bit growing up in Orange County, and I always said from the time we moved when I was in like 5th grade, I will move back to California. So I ended up doing that and really threw myself into the trenches out here because I was having a very difficult time finding a job after college. Not because, you know, I had a degree, I did all the things, but I wasn't living here yet. And so applying to jobs, getting a call for an interview and not being able to be here, a lot of people were like, pass, I'll just move on to the next person. They didn't want to wait 2 weeks for me to be able to find time to fly out here. So I ended up deciding the best option would be to move to Los Angeles and figure out the job once I got here. I was able to figure out a buffer with that by keeping my job at Lush Cosmetics and transferring to the Santa Monica location, which is now closed, but there was a Lush store on the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica. I wasn't thrilled about like having a college degree and working retail, but again, I knew I just had to be in Los Angeles and then figure it out because it wasn't cutting it applying to jobs and still living in Orlando at the time. If anybody's from Orlando, let me know. And if you're watching, by the way, I want to know where you're from. I grew up all over the US. Georgia, Florida, Texas, California. Is that it? Multiple places in Florida, multiple places in California, and I love California the most. It's my absolute favorite. So I'm living here in Los Angeles. I'm working in Santa Monica at the 3rd Street Promenade. I'm barely scraping by. I'm making like $17 an hour working at Lush part-time, mind you. $17 an hour might sound decent, but hi kitty. It's very hard to live in LA on a part-time $17 an hour job. But I'm making ends meet. I'm doing it. I'm also 20 years old, so you know, I'm still on my parents' insurance. Like, I'm able to get by making barely $2K a month. My rent was also $900 at the time. Inflation, we hate her. I wish my rent was still $900. Now, as I'm working this job, I'm about 6 months into living in Los Angeles, and I really have a great relationship with the higher up at Lush that I was working with. Her name was Summer. Shout out Summer, I love you forever. And Summer and I developed a really great relationship. Summer, I was a floor manager and Summer was like the store manager. And Summer had been working in this industry in the industry of retail for a long time, was looking to make a pivot, and she was like, hey, I'm thinking about jumping ship. I'm looking into moving to sales, medical sales specifically, and I think you would make a really good fit. You know, I've accepted this job. I would love you to be one of my first hires. And I was like, oh my God, like this is exactly what I needed. I've been, you know, desperate for a job, and I have a business degree. I've never done sales before. I you know, worked in retail in college, and obviously I'd been working at Lush. I had done like odd end jobs for like my dad and worked at a taco restaurant, but I didn't have like medical sales experience. But she knew my work ethic because obviously I'd been working under her at Lush. She really liked me and offered me a $50,000 salary, and I was beside myself. Like, as any 20-year-old would be, I was so thrilled. I landed my first big girl job. So the cool thing about this job, which was a blessing and a curse, is that I had to basically work my own territory. There was no office. The company I worked for was not based in Los Angeles. So it was really on me, which was perfect. And I kind of felt like, oh my gosh, did I just land like the perfect opportunity? I kind of work for myself. I have stability because I'm working, you know, I still have a salary. I'm able to make commission, which I didn't necessarily make commission, but that's a different story. I'm able to make commission. Like, I drive all around Los Angeles. It was seemingly perfect while it lasted. However, I felt like, I knew that medical sales after about a year, I was like, this is not my passion or calling. I love all things medical, but it wasn't for me, this particular job and company. I loved working with Summer, obviously. So I decided to make the switch after applying to a bunch of jobs and kind of dabbling around about a year into medical sales to technology sales. I had still wanted to stay in sales because I had established that I was good at it, and I knew that there was good money there, and I liked being, you know, working kind of from home, driving around, socializing with people. But I will say a big challenge I was running into is that I was lonely, you know, like, other than the people I was selling to, which was doctors or front desk ladies, or, you know, having luncheons with professionals, I wasn't really mingling with anybody who was my age. I wasn't meeting people, and that was a really big struggle for me because at the time I've always lived by myself. So I was living by myself. Thankfully I don't now, but I lived by myself for 7 years. So, you know, I'm like 22 now. I will say, I'm gonna toot my own horn, is that when I made the switch, and I'm very proud of myself for this, from medical sales to technology sales, after just 1 year of experience, I was able to negotiate a $100,000 salary. So I went from making $50,000 for my first year of my career working medical sales to then switching to a technology sales job where I was offered a $100,000 salary before any added on commissions, which again, I never really saw those commissions, but that's a whole scam in itself. I want to say, so what is it? It is now like March of, I can't even think of what year it would have been. 2019? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's March of 2019 because I'm like 2 years post-grad. So it's like March of 2019 and 3 months into this technology sales job, and everything just kind of comes to a head. I'm calling my mom every single day, complaining like no other about my life, about this job. Come to find out, like, technology sales is extremely male dominated, which is fine. However, there was a big shift with this particular job compared to my first job in that I had to report to an office for a lot of the time. And this was a big time suck for me. Driving to the office, I also didn't really get along with the people I was working with, and I was half of everybody's age on these like sales team, and I really felt like I got picked on a lot and kind of singled out because I was really aggressive and successful. in this position, and it really created a negative environment for me. And truly the biggest thing, everything like company politics and stuff aside, is that my mental health was in the gutter and something had to change. Mind you, I'm new to making this money. Like, again, it really wasn't even about the money for me. Like, it was just my mental health. I had to take a priority, a front seat. So I decided March of 2019, and this was like, I've told this story before, but I feel like everyone should hear it. I got to the point where I was like, something's gotta give. I'm miserable. I've been at this job for 3 months. My career is still new. Like, it's not too late to reinvent yourself. It's like a good life lesson as well. And I was looking for a sign. I'm like, do I apply to new jobs? Do I quit and figure it out again? Like, do I go back to like try to work at Lush? Like, I was just trying to figure out, what am I gonna do with my life? Like, I'm not happy. It was a Monday, and I was getting in the elevator to report to the office, and the front desk lady who worked at this technology sales job got into the elevator with me. And you know, everybody's friendly and says hi and stuff in the morning. And she turns to all of us and just under her breath, mind you, it's a Monday morning, she goes, "Only 5 days until Friday." And it was in that exact moment, I don't know what was in the air that day, that it hit me like a bus, those words, when she said, "Only 5 days till Friday." I was like, this isn't the life I signed up for. This isn't the life I want to live. I do not want to live my life counting down the minutes until Friday. That's just not who I am. I can't do this. And so within 48 hours, I walked into the office, I packed up my stuff. Mind you, I don't think this is the most professional thing I've ever done, but I packed up my stuff, I quit on the spot, and I said, this isn't for me. I can't do this. I'm so sorry. Thank you for the opportunity. I had no job lined up. I really had barely any savings, and I was determined, please hold. I was determined to do quite literally anything to make ends meet that made me happy. And from there, I really started assessing a lot of the stuff in my life. What am I good at? How can I meet people? You know, I've been in LA at this point for like 2 years and I've barely met anybody. You know, I knew I was really good with kids. I babysat a lot throughout college, throughout high school. I was like, okay, maybe I find a nanny agency. I'll be able to spend time with kids. I'll still be able to have a flexible schedule. I can meet a lot of people. I'll be able to like bop around LA, and it's really flexible. So I sign up for a nanny agency, interview, and get a job. I'm like, okay, how can I make extra cash on the side? I start doing audience work, which here in LA means like a lot of the morning talk shows, they need people to like come and sit in the audience starting at like 5 a.m. so that they have people in the audience for tapings. And a lot of those, you know, at the time would pay like $25 cash. And I'm like, amazing. So at 4 a.m. I would start lining up at the studios after signing up for a lot of these programs to have the chance at, you know, making $40 or, you know, $50 for the morning, which was helpful. And it really was a great supplement and got me by for a while. I also was doing ice cream catering. I actually just stopped doing that 8 years later, recently, because the company, she decided to retire, but I was doing anything. My whole goal with all of this was like, I am on the pursuit of happiness. I do not care how much money I make. I do not care, like $100,000 salary can go out the window if my happiness is not at the top of everything that I do. And my life really turned around. And I met a ton of people while I was nannying and babysitting. I was networking like crazy, you know, telling anybody and everybody that I met, like, hey, I'm like really trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. Like, if I could ever like organize your closet for you, like, let me know. I know you have a business, like if you ever need someone to help and like file papers, I'll do it. And I think this really optimistic attitude really landed me a lot of the opportunities and relationships that I built during this time. And truly, this was honestly probably the most pivotal moment of my entire life, was like this 9 months where I was like grinding and hustling. Like I said, I've been meeting a lot of people because I was babysitting their kids. And sort of like the angle that I took, and I guess it like in hindsight it was strategic, but it was smart of me to do, was, you know, if I met people that I really liked while I was babysitting, I'd be like, hey, you know, give me a call. Like, if you ever need anything, you trust me with your kids, like why not trust me with your Instagram? And that, my friends, is where things took a turn for the best. So like I said, I had been meeting people, I'm babysitting a lot, I'm making pretty good money, honestly. I'm like really thrilled about it. And, you know, my parents are quaking in their boots because they just paid an arm and a leg for my college degree, and I'm babysitting kids for a living, but hey, whatever. You know, I started to build this really reliable network out here. They really trust me with their kids. Things are driving and going well. The nanny agency's great. And I started to realize the boom that was kind of happening with social media. This is pre-TikTok. TikTok comes around at like was starting to really become a thing in like fall of 2019, I feel. And I was an early adopter of TikTok. I downloaded the app and just started posting like random stuff about my birthmark. I was living in a really tiny studio at the time, the $900 studio I was talking about, and I was just having fun on the app. But I started to tell a lot of the people that I had met during this time, like, hey, if you ever need help with your social media, like, I'm happy to help, and I'll do it for a really competitive rate, because transparently I'm not an expert. Like, I'm just starting to tinker around with this, but I feel like I probably can, you know, get some posts thrown up for you, create some graphics. Like, I knew enough to like figure it out. And mind you, this is 6 years ago. Like, Instagram has changed a lot. At the time, you could like crank out 30 graphics, get them scheduled, and call it a day. Not necessarily the same with the introduction of video content, but people were really receptive to this, and I landed my first, let's see, 2 social media clients by the end of 2019. So to give you an update on the timeline, I quit my job cold turkey in March of 2019, and then December of 2019, I had been posting on TikTok and landed my first 2 social media clients. I think I hit 10,000 followers on TikTok in a matter of like maybe a month, and then hit like 50,000 followers on TikTok by like January or February of 2020. Pre-COVID, of course. So now we're in 2020, and it's January of 2020. I have these 2 social media marketing clients. It's not a crazy rate, but again, it's a great supplement to my income. I'm getting experience, and the clients are really happy. I realized, okay, I've got these official clients. I guess I need to like create a business if I'm doing this. So I registered for my LLC, and my business was established January 29th, 2020. Again, I have these 2 clients. You know, it's January, it's February, and it's March. March 15th, the pandemic hits. Pretty much overnight, those 2 social media clients that I had, I'm still babysitting, nannying, doing all these extra side gigs. These 2 social media clients that I had pretty much like quadrupled overnight, because the second the pandemic hit, everyone and their mom became really, really dialed in on their social media strategy, because they knew that their businesses were closing. They knew that the world had pretty much come to a halt, and the only way that they could continue selling anything or making money was if they got some sort of social media presence going. This was such a huge blessing for me, because I was pretty much able to overnight, when the pandemic hit, become a full-time social media manager. I was a one-woman show. Again, like I said, I think I went from like 2 clients to 6 clients very, very quickly, just by word of mouth and referrals and reaching out to people organically and all that jazz. And then I think like the highest amount of clients I ever had at one point was maybe like 12 social media clients. So at this point, you know, I'm really starting to be quite embarrassed, because I'm doing social media management for several people, and I have really nothing to show for my own social media other than TikTok, which my TikTok wasn't necessarily like, it was kind of just something I was dabbling with. I didn't really view myself like as an influencer. A lot of people didn't even know what TikTok was yet. By the way, my makeup's done. A lot of people didn't know what TikTok was, and I wasn't going to promote my TikTok to clients, because none of them were even thinking in the slightest about TikTok or even knew what it was, because a lot of the clients, transparently, that I work with are typically, I would say, like middle-aged. They don't have time, they have kids, you know, they don't have time for social media, so they don't even know what TikTok is. So I decided to rebrand my Instagram account that I did have, which was That's So Reagan blog, a fashion blog that I had started during college. And the account was okay. It had 4,000 followers, but again, Instagram was totally different. You know, this is, think back to like 2013, 2014, 2015. I think all things considered, like, I did a good job building a following of 4,000 people, but it wasn't something that I ever took that seriously. And pretty much as soon as I graduated college, it kind of fizzled, because again, I gave up on the whole fashion thing and decided to move into sales and move to LA and all that. So I have this Instagram account, and I'm like, it has 4,000 followers. I might as well kind of just turn this into like the business side of things and start promoting my marketing services, because I want to be able to gain new clients and continue to show, like, establish that I am a social media manager, that I can help people. So I completely rebrand the account, and pretty immediately things are not working. Nobody cares about my marketing services. I feel like the content is really falling flat, because I am working 8 hours a day, and then I'm trying to show up on social media and promote my business further, and it's just coming across as like, I'm exhausted, I'm desperate, I'm tired. And the one thing that I picked up on every single time I would post on my Instagram was that nobody cared about what I was actually talking about. So like, for example, if I make a video saying like, I have these marketing services, these are the 3 things, and I'm like pointing to the screen of like the 3 services, and then I'm like, comment below, you know, whatever. Nobody would acknowledge the marketing services, and they'd be like, where's your necklace from? And I'm like, okay, happy to tell you where my necklace is from. Like, again, like affiliates is still like newer and not really something I'd ever explored. So I kind of read the room, and I'm like, you know what? No one cares about my marketing services. I've done a really great job at this point. I'm like 2 years in, you know, a year, 2 years into doing social media management for people. I am going to read the room and completely rebrand this account and just start the same way I was on TikTok, just start talking about my life. And it was pretty much, I mean, I feel like consistently, it's 2025 now, since 2022, I have been taking my social media so incredibly seriously, and I've been able to grow, you know, what I'm proud of and call a pretty great and loyal audience. You know, TikTok, not that great anymore, again, besides the point, but I had, you know, I was kind of stuck at like 13,000 followers for a while on Instagram. I stayed at 13,000 followers up until last year in 2024. All of a sudden things took off, and now I'm at, you know, like 160,000 followers on Instagram. YouTube grew, you know, Shorts was introduced. I took advantage of that. TikTok has kind of stayed, you know, I've been at around almost at 400,000 followers for like 2-3 years now. But I focused on, you know, Facebook and all these different platforms, and really decided that I can be a full-time content creator. You know, I've honed and mastered this skill. Why not do the services I offer for other people, but do it for myself? And then I don't have to market myself at all. If my social media exists, that is proof in the pudding of itself that this girl knows what she's doing if her personal socials have taken off. And the biggest, I guess, blessing of all of this is that as I started to manage my own social media and grow my following and my audience, I realized that the money that I could make off of a singular TikTok video or, you know, long-term collaboration far exceeds the effort and time and money that I make from one social media client. And so I made it my goal, once I kind of had that discovery and epiphany in like 2023, that I really wanted to pare back my social media management clients and focus on, you know, the clients I liked working with best, the accounts that I liked working on best, and make my content creation my full-time living. I really mean it when I say like it was purely accidental that I became an influencer, full-time content creator, because it was sort of not intended to be that way whatsoever. And I feel like when I say I feel like I was destined for this job is because I feel like so many things lined up for me to get to this point. I kind of feel like all along I look back and I'm like, how did I not think of this sooner? This is what I was meant to do, and the universe left me breadcrumbs for years and years. You know, I used to have a YouTube channel before I deleted it, like when I was in, I don't know, maybe when YouTube like first came out. What was that, like 2009 or something? Like I was posting on YouTube all the time as a kid. I had a fashion blog for years. Like I was doing all the things before I even knew that it was an option to do it full time, if that makes sense. So fast forward to now, I am 5 years into being self-employed. As of January 29th of 2025, I've completed 5 years of being self-employed. That makes me emotional, honestly, just thinking about it, how much I've gone through to get to this point. 5 years of being self-employed. I had my biggest year ever last year, revenue-wise. I signed on to management last June. As of January of this year, my assistant Sarah is full-time. I pay her a full-time salary, and she works a 40-hour week every week for me. I have worked with some of my absolute dream brands. You know, really early on in this career, I was rewarded with a lot of awesome opportunities. Like in 2021, you know, only, I don't know, a few months into doing TikTok videos, It Cosmetics invited me to be in a commercial to show off my vascular birthmark. You know, L'Oreal hired me for a campaign. Like, I've been so incredibly lucky that my hard work and like fruits of my labor has been rewarded, and I truly feel now in this point and position that I'm in, you know, I still have some social media clients, and Sarah primarily helps me run all the logistics with that, and that's a big focus of hers. And now my focus is, how can I leverage my social media platforms that I have built? Number one, how can I continue to grow them? Because I have big goals. So does the siren driving by. I have big goals. I want to reach as many people as possible, you know, millions and millions, like the sky is the limit. But how can I leverage my social media content to touch the lives of as many people as possible? Whether that's motivating them through stories like this, whether that's empowering them to feel good about their body, whether that's educating them on vascular birthmarks and creating more inclusivity on the internet, whether that is, you know, sharing my fashion and inspiring people to embrace their body and the quirks that make them them. I feel so called in this lifetime to share my you know, how do I take my success and impact others is my biggest goal. And I wake up every single day so excited to do what I do because I feel like the world is my oyster and I have so much at my fingertips and I don't take that lightly. I just feel so grateful that I'm at this place where I'm doing what I love. I'm able to exercise my creativity every single day. And it's truly the biggest blessing of my entire life. And I will do it until I can't anymore. And then from there, I'll pivot again, just like I have 100 times. The question I get asked often is like, what do you see? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Like, where do you see taking and leveraging this expertise that you've built in like social media? And I think that consulting is a really big one. I think, you know, leveraging my sales experience and my business degree and sort of my business mind, I've done a little bit of consulting here and there when when the opportunity presents itself. But I love speaking with brands and individuals on, you know, auditing their social media accounts, providing insight on the industry or what influence, you know, it's nice because I have my toe in both sides of the world, right? Like I'm an influencer, content creator, I do this for myself, but I also am on the brand side where I do this for brands and they hire me to run their social media. So I'm seeing like, what are brands needing? What do companies need when it comes to social media, but also like how can you leverage an influencer to do it? And then I also, as an influencer, work with brands on a sponsored capacity. So I also know like that side of the business as well. So I feel like as like a big giant puzzle piece, it all comes together and that's where I see like the most fruitful thing or most natural trajectory for me being like consulting down the road. But I won't lie, like I have gigantic goals. I would love to also like, you know, create a business from this. You know, I have no idea what that looks like. You know, I don't know, skincare line or something, or some fashion brand, or have a line at Target. Like, I just think the sky is the limit when it comes to that stuff. I would love to be the face of a brand to show like your skin doesn't have to be perfect in order to be beautiful. You don't need to make it be pretty. Like, there's just so much that I want out of this world, and I don't take this lightly. So if you are here and you've made it this far, I truly hope that some part of this video resonates with you and that you don't take moments like my elevator story where the lady said, you know, 5 days till Friday. Don't take those gut reaction moments lightly and don't be afraid to really shake up your life. I know at the time I was 22 and it was really easy for me to quit my job because my expenses were low. You know, I was on my parents' health insurance. Like I'm not saying, you know, that everybody is in a position to just quit their job cold turkey, but really take inventory of your life, take inventory of your mental health, put that at the top of your list and look at like, am I happy? Like time is flying by. I said this recently in a post, like time is flying by. You might die tomorrow. Will you regret staying in the job or career or relationship or whatever it might be, the state that you're in, like the house that you're in, like city that you're in, whatever it might be? Will you regret if you died tomorrow being complacent with the life that you're living? And that is where I want to leave you today. I hope that this is like some food for thought. I love sharing stories like this. So if there's any other requests, I know that you guys also voted that you want to see a purse collection video, which is like a complete 180 from this. So I am preparing that for you, hopefully next week or the week after. But drop a comment below. I always like to say if you made it to the end, which if you have, bravo, because this was a chatty one, go ahead and leave me a strawberry emoji. Leave me a strawberry emoji down in the comments so I can say hi to you. I feel so full of life and I hope that through this video, like I'm like sending you those vibes through the screen and I hope you feel that. It is a pleasure of a lifetime to hopefully inspire or make an impact on your life. Leave a strawberry down below and introduce yourself. My name's Reagan. Thank you so much for being here. As always, it was another great day to be alive and I will see you on the next one. Bye.